parish in Chatsworth, California, St. John Youths, and we're going to be talking with Clarissa Martinez and Paul Luxon. And Clarissa is the communications director there. Paul is the confirmation coordinator, but Paul is an engineering student who is also discerning the priesthood right now. He'd like to go to St. John Seminary. So I hope that you will pray for him as you watch this. As you'll see, he's a dynamic young man who has a vision for the future of the church. So we're going to go there now and hear about a really cool technology that they've been implementing and are getting some really great results from. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining us today.
Of course, you're welcome. Thanks for inviting us, John.
Well, we were talking a little bit before we started recording here, and I really loved what you had to say, Clarissa, about your heart for liturgy and why this new technology and this online streaming platform is so exciting for you. Would you share that with everybody?
Sure. I've had close to about 2 decades of liturgy, background in liturgy and music. And so I've also been part of a community that's multicultural. So it's always just been a passion of mine to be able to listen and prepare liturgies responding to the heart and the life of the people, of the assembly. And so that's how I'm able to prepare liturgies in the multicultural sense. Now, what I was sharing is that now this is a different dimension of enculturating the liturgy. Because now we're not talking about cultures, we're not talking about language. We're talking about entering into a different sphere of a culture of what Pope Francis called it, a digital continent. So to be able to incorporate that with a lot of visuals, obviously audio and video will definitely be a key component to it. And now to be able to respond and breathe life and spirit to it is something that I'm really looking forward to as we're getting ready for Triduum and for Holy Week. So I'm excited. So we're trying to get in as early as now to get the tech run going, because we want it to be one of the things that we were doing. One of the glitches that we were finding on live stream is that we're dependent upon the bandwidth of the platform that we're kind of hopping onto. So what we're hoping to do then is on our end is to be able to reduce that distraction so that a full worship experience will actually happen. And then we just pray to the Spirit that everything goes well when it goes out there on stream.
Yeah, if you watched our webinar a couple weeks ago, we talked about the 3 things that you need are bandwidth, good video, and good audio. And you get those 3 things working well, and it's going to be great. I know that's something you guys have been working on. We're going to talk about the technical side of things a little more in a moment, but one of you just tell us what you're going to be doing during the Triduum and Holy Week going into Easter.
Sure. Sneak peek to what we're happening is, as we speak, we're asking stories from our parishioners, from the families, from the school children. We have a parish school in our parish. So we're trying to bring in the liturgy, the very essence of the liturgy, which is the work of the people, and to be able to then capture the essence of it without being physically present and being physically together, that we are still able to bring about now the message that's screaming out, which is the spiritual communion. So I think that's where we want to enter into, beginning Palm Sunday and Holy Week. Our daily masses, we want to keep it simple. We are basing it, we're really just kind of following the guidelines to keep the liturgy simple. And so we've been doing that in the daily masses in the last couple of Sundays. But we're entering now into the big church, the bigger venue. We're testing out now and basically bumping up our technology to make sure that we're ready for something that will give them a better, you don't want to call it a production, but we want them to have a better experience and a full experience of what spiritual communion is about. And if that involves getting a little bit more into pre-production, getting the stories together, editing, doing some overlays, those are the things that we want to gear up for.
That's great. And that, as you were saying, excellence in all of this is not about a production. It's about eliminating distraction.
Yes.
When we do this excellently and the best that we can, it really helps people focus and connect more spiritually and not get distracted by things like bandwidth or bad audio or.
Exactly. And and we trust that, we were just having a meeting with the liturgy commission from the parish that we were saying that this is something to be we're very particular about, being very sensitive now again into the enculturation, a new enculturation that we're entering into, that there's these different elements that are coming up is simply what we're trying to be attuned of. So in other words, the stories will now reflect their brokenness, or they're feeling isolated, but then to draw it back in to the liturgy so that the fullness of the worship will still be real. And the Eucharist is still ever present, even if the physical gathering is not happening. So that's where we're getting at. Some quick example. On Good Friday, the Vatican requires us, or tells us the new directives, that there will be no veneration of the cross. So instead of having a veneration of the cross, we're going to have now pre-production of venerating Christ crucified in our brokenness, in our woundedness, and to offer all of those stories in that brokenness as venerating Christ in one another. And then we're going to keep the liturgy in itself very simple, and then offer different meditation prayer experiences after the actual liturgy on Good Friday. So those are some of the little sneak peeks that we're doing for next week.
Awesome. Well, what really drew me to your parish to start with was I noticed you were using this technology called Switcher, and I really didn't know much about it, except I saw that you were doing overlays of scripture or readings, and even mass intentions, and I saw you had multiple cameras, and I thought, wow, what is going on? Because I know this isn't some big, high-budget, high-production parish. How are they doing this? So, Paul, would you give us a little bit of the technology side behind Switcher and what you're using to pull all this off?
Yeah, sure. So Switcher is an app which they offer for free for a 14-day free trial, and so we decided to try it out. And so the way it works is that you use a mobile device to kind of work different camera angles within any scope of any live stream. And in this case, we're taking advantage of this technology to live stream the Mass daily. And so a lot of the beginning Masses, when this whole outbreak came out, was pre-recorded and it required a lot of video editing. And so Switcher gave us the ability to set up mobile cameras connected to a source, which is the Switcher itself. And it's able to record different angles, while at the same time, you're able to have different overlays of different things. So at the beginning, we show our Mass intentions. And throughout the experience, we're working on trying to make the prayer experience better by having overlays of the creed, and then during communion, having the overlay for the prayer of spiritual communion, so that from the homes of our parishioners, they're able to engage within the liturgy fully in this kind of situation. And so it's not just you're watching the Mass being said, but you're actually saying the prayers along with the community that is celebrating the Mass at the parish.
I think it's so great. I think our biggest goal in this is connection. That people aren't just spectators, but they are connecting. And one way that I see that happening is on your Facebook Live. They can post prayers in the comments, right? And as you have the words there, they're much more likely to read along and to speak in the Mass if those words are on the screen. And so it seems like a great way to encourage connection. So you have 2 iPhones and an iPad. Is that your setup right now?
Currently, yes. 2 iPhones and an iPad, and just getting good signal is really the biggest part of it. Is making sure that you're in an area with good Wi-Fi connection, just so that you're able to stream that live and kind of giving that kind of great output to the output, so Facebook Live itself.
as people see these images, it's hard to believe this is a couple of phones and an iPad. And as we've talked about, the one challenge you faced was audio. But as you're going to Switcher subscription, you're going to be able to run an audio feed from your soundboard into the iPad. And now you're going to have a microphone on the priest. You'll have good audio. What is, just off the top of your head, what is the cost for the subscription to Switcher?
The cost for the subscription is about $29 for nonprofit organizations. And then I think the full price is $39, and it comes in different plans, but we were assessing the different plans, and it seemed like the basic, the essentials, was able to fit what we're trying to get out there. And so really you don't need that monthly, the most expensive monthly subscription to be providing this high quality live stream to the audience. And like we said earlier, these last 2 weeks, we've just been using the free trial and just kind of testing out what works and what doesn't with it. So it's really incorporating all of that.
And we're not really locked into it, like the Switcher doesn't really kind of lock you into a year plan or anything like that. We want to be able to just test this out. If this fits what the necessity is, and if this is sufficient, or if we're able to grow, into more of this, but it basically gives us the freedom to just, play around with it until we actually find the right formula for our parish needs.
I love that you were experimenting. We're always encouraging parishes to experiment and try new things. And this time is really forcing us to do that, isn't it? But yes. You're experimenting, you're learning, you're improvising and pivoting. And so you're currently going to Facebook Live. You're going to be transitioning to YouTube Live, which you can also send to Facebook. That way people that aren't on Facebook can watch it. Anyone can watch it, right?
We're trying to also avoid the traffic that's happening on Facebook Live now. Everybody's streaming on Facebook Live. So we're trying to find ways now on how we can kind of just move away from it. So that way we're not really hopping on too much to their limited bandwidth.
Right.
And then one of the things that we're coupling it now is we're basically revisiting our communication tool for the parish, that we're moving slowly out of obviously the hard copies of the printed bulletin, the hard copies of the parish bulletin. We're shifting now slowly into the digital as well. So more of those things like the giving, the online giving is something that we're pushing more now to continue the mission of our community.
Do you have any stories of people that have connected online, like where you've seen just great things from people connecting online? Do you have any stories from that yet?
I think last Sunday there was a family that actually came to the parish, and it was announced that the church is closed. Archbishop Gomez had asked that the parish close their doors to promote this a culture of staying home and staying safe. And there's this family that came up, and Father Ethan, our administrator at the parish, kind of saw a shadow moving outside. So he went out and he came back in and told us that this family just was looking for us that was live streaming the Mass and wanted to say thank you, because they felt so much closer to Jesus with the way that the Mass was being live streamed, and their ability to engage with the community through the live comments and through the prayers on the screen. And so it's just, they were so thankful, and they said, and it was such a great opportunity to just stay outside of the Blessed Sacrament Chapel and just thank God for this technology and this ability to connect in such a great way that we would have never thought before.
So they were so impacted by engaging with the Mass online that they came to the church to thank you and to thank God?
Immediately after the live stream, they said, we're closed to church. I know, we understand. We just watched the live stream, but we just felt like we wanted to stop by the church itself to just really visit in person.
What it's all about. People were so touched online that they wanted to come to the physical building